Good afternoon, everyone. Joe from Cognitive Crypto here, going to give you your weekly crypto intel update. Got a couple of cool things to show you this week. Just going to talk about Crystalvale and the launch on DeFi Kingdoms. We're going to talk a little bit about the Metalcore Lite paper that came out, which play to earn game. We'll talk about the UE Parliament decision that was made this week. And then last, give you a couple updates on Coinbase and Coinbase Pro that I saw. First, though, I'm going to share my screen and just talk quickly about the Fear and Greed Index. Okay, here on the screen, we've got the Fear and Greed Index. Again, it's crypto market sentiment analysis, just like we talk about it every week. You can see we're dead smack in the middle at neutral. Really what this means is that you really don't have a great indicator from the Fear and Greed Index on whether or not the market's going to go up or down this week. Again, it's just going to be one indicator, but it seems like people are sitting pretty centered. The 2 weeks ago, we were in the fear side of things where you see in the red. And then last week, we were actually up into the greed portion, but we seem to have neutralized. So, if you take it as an indicator, I would just say that it probably is right down the center of this week and not going to be the one that helps you decide whether or not you're going to make a call on crypto. I do want to jump right into the other material, which is the DeFi Kingdoms launch for Crystalvale. This was a pretty big hyped up project. DeFi Kingdoms is doing fairly well here on the Harmony network, but this week they released the Crystalvale portion of their game, play to earn game, which is a subnet on the Avalanche network. And it's on their own subnet for DeFi Kingdoms, which is pretty cool. And if you're familiar with DeFi Kingdoms from before, you know that you can essentially own heroes and use them to do quests, and eventually you'll be able to do player versus player battles with them, and a couple other functions are going to be opening up. However, with Crystalvale's launch, again, you can do that on the Avalanche network, and they do have a new coin. So again, on the old DeFi Kingdoms are the one that is still standing, but the coin that you utilize there was going to be the Jewel, and that was the one that really drove the economy on there. On the new DeFi Kingdoms, you're going to have the Crystal, but there's only a few ways to get that right now. So if you go and you know how to bridge tokens across, essentially you're going to need to take the Jewel you have on DeFi Kingdoms and move it over to the DeFi Kingdoms network via their bridge in the docs section of the DeFi Kingdoms universe. You're going to need to have Jewel and then X Jewel, and X Jewel is going to be the staked version of Jewel that you get from the jeweler. And with those two, once you bridge them, you can put them into a liquidity pair. And once you pair them, you put them into the garden on the Avalanche network's DeFi Kingdoms. And from there, you can farm Crystal. In the future, currently that's the only way to get it. But in the future, what they're going to do is they're going to put Crystal and Avalanche pairs or Crystal and Jewel pairs in there for more APY to earn the Crystal. And then, as more Crystals available, they'll do Crystal and Bitcoin, Crystal and Ethereum, Crystal and One, Crystal and Matic, and a few others. A reminder, though, those will be wrapped tokens on the Avalanche network. So it's important to remember that as you look to doing those other pairings. Currently, the APY for the Crystal draw, so it just went for the Jewel and X Jewel liquidity pair, was a little over 3,000% right before this video. But it's important to remember that number has been dropping rapidly, and we'll probably end up somewhere in the 200% area, similar to what the Jewel pools were on the old version of DeFi Kingdoms, or the original version, I should say. It's important you may ask yourself, well, how's the old Jewel going to be affected by that? Because that game's still going. And, if you had tokens, how's that going to be affected? Well, ideally, it's not going to be affected too much. And the reason behind that is that Jewel is going to be the gas that you use for any gas fees on the new Crystalvale Avalanche network. So how that works is you have to have Jewel in DeFi Kingdoms from the Harmony network. You bridge that over, and then you pay the gas. I will say the gas fees were super cheap. I did some playing around in there, and the gas fee was like 0.001 Jewel, or maybe even less than that. So you're not going to pay a lot of gas when you're moving things around, but the goal of that is to maintain the price of Jewel on the Harmony network while also allowing the Crystalvale economy with the Crystal to improve as well. So ideally, right now Crystal's price was sitting at around $21, a little less, and then Jewel was sitting around $9.30. But you'll probably see those prices come very similar over time as both economies grow. And that's just because they essentially have the same functionality of being able to be used in the marketplace, and then also being able to be used for hero summons and a couple other things. still a very exciting project. A lot of hype built around it. Definitely one to watch closely, and hopefully it'll follow if the whole market goes up. So definitely something to watch. Next, I'm going to jump into the Metalcore Lite paper. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. Okay, so now I've got my screen shared for the Metalcore Lite paper. So this is essentially a play to earn game that is up and coming. It's still in development right now. They've got a Discord server running and a Twitter, but it's going to be a mech combat play to earn game, and it'll have player versus environment, and it's going to have player versus player. This whole Lite paper goes through the functionality of that, but it was the first time that they had released an actual paper documenting more than just their overall roadmap, which they have been hitting here. Important to note, though, I just want to talk about the team. So, and what they kind of point out here. So the team is fairly experienced. There has a lot of experience from a lot of major companies in gaming. You can see they're run out of Studio 369, and they have experience from Activision, Disney, Lucasfilms, and a few other projects that are pretty major, across their team, as well as some really good artists. And then they're going to be using the Unreal Engine 4 to power the game. So that, if you know anything about the Unreal Engine, is really like the cutting edge of being able to have gaming graphics. So, ideally that's going to make this game definitely one to watch here in the future. Other things they're going to have factions. So they have the Metal Punks, the Gear Breakers, and the Holy faction. So if you're ever part of something like World of Warcraft back in the day, you may be able to find yourself a faction in this game when it comes out. And it's similar also to games like that. You're going to have a Baroni system, which is really a guild system. So they're going to have guilds that you can team up with your friends or people that you met online in order to play against other guilds or play within your faction. And then the last thing I'll note, they do have whitelist opportunities. So if you go to their Discord server right now, you can actually try to get on the whitelist to get some of their initial NFTs. They haven't released exactly what the first drop is going to look like, but to win them, you basically have to play this casino bot that they've set up on there. And it's really fair to play and fair to win. Everybody who can purchase a ticket for the week will ultimately have the same chance to win. You can only get one ticket per person per week. So, at least you can have a fair chance against everybody else. The only thing is it'll take a little bit of time to win enough coins to do that on their bot. So, you can do it within a week for sure. Some people can do it within a day if they're lucky, or they just spend a lot of time chatting. But really, you either play the casino bot or you chat to earn points towards a ticket, and you buy a ticket and just hope you win. They may bring back the other form. They used to have one where as long as you were chatting consistently, you could win a whitelist for just chatting. However, some bots were taking advantage of that, so they stopped that function. But if you are looking for whitelist opportunities for big games with lots of experience, this is one that you can definitely try to go win for yourself and then decide if that's something you want to do. Okay, stop sharing my screen there. Next, third topic for the week is going to be the UE Parliament vote. So you may have seen the European Union Parliament voted to tighten know your customer requirements for what they're calling unhosted wallets. When they say unhosted wallet, all they're really talking about is something like a MetaMask or Coinbase wallet. It's just a wallet that isn't located on an exchange, or it's not tied to your centralized exchange accounts. Where that's going to matter, or at least where they have it set right now, is that if any money is sent from an exchange, so centralized exchange, to what they're calling an unhosted wallet, but just think of that again as like a MetaMask or your hot wallet that you have, and the transaction fee is over 1,000 euros, which is about $1,100 USD. That exchange is going to have to notify authorities that that money is moving, regardless of the cause or the reason. The good news is that it still has to go through some negotiation before this is fully passed for implementation in the European Union, and there's hopes that it'll get drawn back. But what that means is the Parliament will have to get the European Commission, who is the executive branch, and then the European Council, who really sets UE political agendas, to all agree to set this in motion before it goes. So everybody's kind of hoping that really that will get knocked down and won't be put in place. If it does get put in place, initial thoughts are it's going to take 9 to 18 months for that to be actioned. But centralized exchanges will probably start figuring that out immediately to stay functioning in the UE. Overall, most people in the crypto world are coming out as this is a real threat to individual privacy. Looking at it, from the lens of fiat currency, this would be the equivalent as anytime you were withdrawing $1,000 or more from your bank account, regardless of what you plan to spend that money on, your bank would have to notify fiscal or law enforcement authorities of that transaction, regardless of what you were going to use it for. So pretty high burden there to put on crypto, even though it can potentially go global very quickly. It really doesn't seem like it would stop much. And again, it's going to affect anybody who would be using MetaMask wallets or any other wallets that are considered unhosted, which again just means they're not on the centralized exchange. So, we'll make sure to keep the community updated on this because this will have major implications both in the European Union as well as globally if that is put into place. Last, I'm going to just hit some updates on Coinbase Pro and functionality there, and also on regular Coinbase that we saw this week. So first, with Coinbase Pro, I'm just going to talk about some fee changes. This is something I talk about with pretty much everybody we just sit down with, is the Coinbase fees, and they have historically for anything from $0 to $10,000 on Coinbase Pro been 0.5% for maker and taker fees. So money going in and money going out. But here we notice here in the last week or so that the fee has gone up for the intake. So if you're putting money on, it is now 0.6%. And then for leaving Coinbase, it's going to be down to 0.4%. And that's for 0 to 100 or $0 to $10,000. Not really a huge change, but it is important to note if you are looking to find ways to lessen your fees when you're buying crypto. It's so minor that you probably won't even notice it on most of your purchases, but we wanted to make sure everybody was aware there were some fee changes there. And they made some similar adjustments for different values all the way up the ladder of how much crypto you're putting in. And then the other thing I want to share, I'm going to share my screen for Coinbase because they added a new function that I think is worth everybody's time here. All right, sharing my screen now here with Coinbase, and you can see over here the menu. I'm underneath the trade function, and then here on trade is what it normally looked like, where you could just go buy, and it was a simple, just hit the buy button, and when you hit the buy button, you just go straight in, ACH transfer right there, and you pay the full fees, whatever Coinbase's are, which are going to be a little bit more than your typical fee on like Coinbase Pro. But they added a new function. Go up to trade, and you hit advanced trade, and you're going to probably, if you use Coinbase Pro, it's going to look very similar to something you've seen before. And they've now added this tab where they essentially have added the Coinbase Pro user interface into regular Coinbase. So if I click Bitcoin USD, which again is a trade between using Bitcoin and USD, I click that, and you'll see that the chart that comes up is going to look extremely similar. So you can, you have a variety of ways that you can present your information here and what you're looking at, but it looks close to Coinbase Pro. It looks like it's powered by TradingView on the background, actually, based on the toolbar here. But you've got a lot more information, and you've got your buy, sell, and you can do limit, market, and stop limits here. And you can, again, do buy and sell, so between Bitcoin and USDC, but they also just have a massive list of coins you can swap between. Interesting thing is that the fees associated with this are the same as Coinbase Pro. So again, because it's a more complicated user interface and requires more steps, it's down for the same thing we discussed earlier, is 0.6 going in and 0.4 going out for anything between $0 and $10,000. Kind of a cool update. If you're trying to consolidate your apps down to one, you probably could now just go down to using a singular app with just regular Coinbase if you wanted to. I will note, it does not seem to be available as a function on the mobile app yet. So if you're using the desktop app, you can probably do that. If you do use the mobile app, still recommend using Coinbase Pro for the short term, although I'm sure at some point they're going to add it in there with an update once they get that figured out. But either way, at least now you have that ability. The only other thing I want to mention too is it operates just like Coinbase Pro, is where you have to put the funds into a small pot first before you can start trading. So where Coinbase, you can go straight from bank account into crypto. Here you go bank account in the US dollars on Coinbase into whichever crypto you want, or you can swap between different cryptos as well. So just a new function for you if you were looking at Coinbase or use it regularly, but we wanted to make sure the community was aware. That concludes the weekly crypto intel update here from Cognitive Crypto team. If you like the information that we passed today and want to stay up to date on what's going on in the crypto sphere, please feel free to subscribe and like to this channel, and we'll make sure that we catch you next week with the next crypto intel update. Thanks, everyone.